What's up, humans, and welcome to a new Psicoactivo. Happy Tuesday, everybody. Okay, so as we keep waiting for that interview that David Grusch, I think, still hasn't recorded on Jake Tapper's show on CNN, there is something new that came out from David Grusch that kind of was like a curveball to me because it does talk a little bit and gets into a little bit calling out the Vatican and this entire conversation that revolves around history of religion and who Jesus Christ was, the beliefs there are about Jesus and his lineage. Um, there's a really weird, strange phenomenon going on right now in the UFO community that I've started to look into. I didn't know at first what I was looking at specifically because I've told you about this chat where there are people who claim that they're being channeled by ancient deities of different religions. And I'm very open minded. I don't necessarily believe everything. I actually don't believe most of what I see, but I am open minded because I'm very curious. And my mother raised me to be a very curious individual, to never lose that sense of wonder. So, reading obviously the Egyptians, the Greeks, and all that stuff, all that type of history, the Iliad, the Odyssey. Shout out to Christopher Nolan. Obviously, when I hear something like this, I go, okay, so let's look into it. Why are people thinking this way? And one of these phenomenons is really strange. It came out on Chris Ramsey's Area 52 show with Luigi Venditelli, where he talks about this woman named Sarah and how she has an account of allegedly being taken to a spaceship where she met Jesus Christ and where they got a baby in her. And it gets really weird, but apparently this phenomenon is ongoing. There's other cases similar to that of belief that reincarnation from a historical figure is actually real and is happening. There's this belief. So I'm very curious to know what people, especially from the Vatican, who seem to know a lot about this, but they're not showing their cards really, know about this. And I wasn't expecting David Grusch to call them out, but he did. And it happened in a documentary trailer by the name of Not of This World, Catholic Faith in the Age of Disclosure. And here is the trailer right here.
When I was 12 years old, shooting hoops in my backyard, I looked up and there was a cylindrical object in the sky, down, up, sideways, and then shot out of sight.
At night, we're walking along the beach and two large objects appeared in the sky, each one about the size of a full moon. We were terrified and we jumped in the car and drove back to my house.
And at that moment, I was hooked. I realized all of those people that are claiming they've seen something in the sky, most of them might just be telling the truth.
The thought of me speaking to you now about UAPs and these phenomena 5 years ago would have been absolutely ludicrous. Obviously, things have changed.
The very definition of insanity, tinfoil hat. We're now being told that maybe there's something to it.
I'm David Grusch. I was a career intelligence officer in the U.S. Air Force. I essentially became the first whistleblower to testify under oath.
I remember thinking a lot about his testimony. He directly connected the claims about these secret programs to the Vatican.
The claim is that in 1933, a craft crashed near Magenta, Italy. Pope Pius XII got in touch with the American government and said, we think you ought to have it.
The Roman Catholic Church must be very cautious. What will the general people think?
I wanted to see the big picture. If they're real, then how does it fit in what we believe? And it didn't fit well at all.
It didn't make sense to me as a devout Christian that God would have told us everything and just leave out 99% of reality.
People want to think the aliens are all fun and games, and the reality is it's not. And the stakes are really high.
It kind of ultimately leads to, what if this renders Christianity false?
As a Catholic, I actually have more questions than answers, and I would like the church to lead on this.
Question of other persons, of fallenness in other worlds, where but the Catholic faith would I look to try to find some understanding?
If the church at the highest levels does know something, the time for transparency is now.
We really are just at the very beginning of a massive, massive journey.
as I tell you, hopefully we can get some information from David Grusch calling out the Catholic Church, the Vatican specifically. We saw Roberto Pinotti there. Shout out to Craig Oliver and Michael Armentor, who have been on the show twice talking about Magenta, and they're going to tackle this. A very interesting documentary, it seems. But, behind the scenes, when it comes to this whole religious aspect of the phenomenon, there's a really weird energy going on behind the scenes. And the people who are involved in their religious practices, and some of them, I would guess, secret societies or something like Freemasons or Templars, they don't really share much. And many of them are constantly going to the events of like Disclosure Foundation and other events. And I don't know, it feels a little bit strange because they do have their own definitions of what we may be dealing with. And some of those definitions are not shared with the general public, and that is concerning. So let me show you a little bit of what I say, because friend of the show, Jason Samosa, and also friend of the show, Jesse Michaels, just had a sit down on American Alchemy, and Jason said the following, which I find really interesting and a little linked and closely linked to this conversation of religion and what religious institutions are gonna do or are doing, and what secret societies have also been doing. That is an interesting question to ask. So here it is.
The hybridization thing raises questions, because if we can breed with non-human entities, does that mean that we're related? So suddenly you've got really confusing piece of information, which immediately leads to another really big question about who we are. Next, you've got questions about our religious texts and what they really mean. So now you're destabilizing religion as well. The really big concern here is we have been through, and right now are also going through, moments where we question the human dignity of the people next to us. So in World War II, everything that happened in terms of the Holocaust was basically about trying to exterminate a specific lineage, right? A specific group of people and their DNA from the planet. We see similar things happening right now, arguably in Gaza and Israel. You've got questions there about, genocide and about the racial components there. What I find very interesting is in the Secret Machines books, the nonfiction, you've got one of the advisors just outright telling Lavender and DeLong, genocides may be a function of the phenomenon. It may be trying to eliminate certain genetic strands for its own purposes. That's coming from, it could be McCaslin, it could be General Hayden. We don't know which one. But one of the advisors said this, and it was in the book, and they were like, we need to share this information as part of this project. So you've got this huge question here about what is going on in terms of race. One of the fascinating links to this is, when the Bledsoes had their experience, and Ryan Bledsoe recounts a conversation that he had. A lot of people have issues with Ryan Bledsoe. That's fine. That's okay. But he recounts a conversation he had with Jim Semivan. I think it's very instructive. Semivan purportedly told him, we think you're hybrids. The reason you're having these experiences is because you may have more non-human DNA, or a certain strand of non-human DNA. You read Lou Elizondo's book, Imminent, it's in there. He says it seems to be that people with Cherokee blood and DNA have more experiences and also are more inclined to go towards a certain type of work, right? So they end up in this kind of government UFO mystery solving thing based on their genetic lineage. So all sorts of different information is coming from places indicating that, and it's, we can't take this as fact because it may well be the case that this is real, that there are studies showing that as you change the genetic profile of an individual, certain things happen.
So part of what seems to be happening is sort of related to this. I am not still 100% like privy to all the information. There's a lot that I still don't feel comfortable revealing, but there is this phenomenon happening, and there are esoteric religious institutions and religious institutions very invested in whatever is revealed by the president right now behind the scenes, because most of them, if not all of them, are going to try and spin it to tell their own narrative. That's, I think, part of what's happening with the whole religious angle of this. We just got to keep staying or trying to stay in the more baseline explanation without anthropomorphizing whatever we see and whatever we experience. And that is going to be very difficult because everybody has their own biases all around the world in this topic. They all have their own biases. And I sure hope that we do get to a point where we can agree on something, at least, if any of this is made public. But things are accelerating pretty fast. And I wasn't expecting for David Grusch to publicly call out the Catholic Church and the Vatican in this trailer. What do you think the Vatican will respond, if they will at all? I don't think they will, to be honest with you. But if they do, what do you think they will respond to? And what secrets do you think they are keeping about reality? Do you think they are or not? Let me know. That's it for me today on this video, but I'll see you guys in the next one. Remember, stay curious and inquisitive like David Grusch. Always. Bye.